Hi, this is Paul Slackers, Good News Planet, speaking to Carl Helvie. Hi, Carl. How are you?
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Okay, good. You've written a book, You Can Beat Lung Cancer. Don't let it be the death sentence. Very
Right.
powerful statement for the cover of a book, and I believe are you 80 years old? Is that right? Did I read that right?
I'll be 81 in August.
Wow. Okay, so then you're a doctor. What kind of a doctor are you?
I have a doctorate in public health from Johns Hopkins University, and I'm also a registered nurse.
Aha, okay. So now what makes you believe somebody can beat lung cancer?
Well, in 1974, I had a dream that told me to go for a chest x-ray, and I pay attention to my dreams because I'm very spiritual and have a lot of faith, and I believe that God speaks with me, and one way is through my dreams. So I went for an x-ray, and they found a spot that had not been there previously. So they referred me and or asked me to go into the hospital, and I had a biopsy done which showed that I had lung cancer. And then the surgeon came and told me they were going to do surgery and then follow up with chemotherapy. And I said, wait a minute, I don't make snap decisions. I'm going home. I'm going to pray about it and make a rational decision. And they told me I would be dead in 6 months. So I told them that that was my responsibility, and their responsibility was to tell me the pros and cons of surgery and radiation, and chemotherapy. So I came home and I prayed about it, and a friend of mine also prayed, and we watched our dreams, and she also knew a psychic and asked if I wanted a psychic reading, and I said, well, I've never had one, but I've got nothing to lose. And we compared notes, and everything was that I should not have surgery and chemo, but should use a natural approach. So my friend knew a physician in Northern Virginia who had worked for the National Cancer Institute, and they were having so much success with their alternative cancer treatments that the drug companies and the government closed them down, and he continued providing care in his private practice, but I had to sign forms that I wouldn't report him. And so he told me all of the physical things to do. He had me take Laetrile, 2,000 milligrams a day, which was illegal, but he told me where I could get it. And I took pancreatic enzymes. I took therapeutic doses of vitamin A, vitamin E. I took a lot of vitamin B. I was on a diet that was 75% raw fruit and vegetables with grains and nuts, but no protein, no simple sugar. And I detoxed once a month. That was primarily just drinking fruit and vegetable juice for one day each month. And I added to that a prayer, meditation, visualization, affirmations, trying to serve others, trying to be more patient, more forgiving, more loving. And because I believe in a holistic approach, so I was trying to do some mental and spiritual activities also. I was on a lot of church prayer lists. I called Olga Worrell, who is a psychic healer, and she put me on her prayer list. And I went back to the doctor every 3 months for x-rays, but I didn't tell him I was doing anything, so he thought we were in a wait-and-see mode. And after 2 years, the spot was gone, and he said he guessed he'd made the wrong diagnoses. So my friend, who was professor at Duke when I taught there, he was professor of pediatrics, and at this point he's the medical director for Blue Cross Blue Shield for North Carolina. And he asked if I would bring all of the x-rays, the lab, the biopsy, and all of the reports, and have him look at it, and he reviewed everything, and he said it was definitely lung cancer, as had the alternative physician that I saw in Northern Virginia.
Now, you, what do you think brought on that cancerous spot? What was your lifestyle previously?
Well, my diet wasn't the best. I have always thrown myself into my work, and while I was teaching, I was publishing and doing research and writing grants and doing all kinds of things, and I never really took much time off, and I ate a lot of the junk food. I wasn't that careful about what I was eating, and I sometimes got stressed, and I think that it was a combination of getting run down and not eating properly, and so I think that is not uncommon. So I now, in the last 36 years since I overcome cancer, I am very careful about what I eat, and I exercise every day. I pray every day. I do affirmations. I continue pretty much the regime I was on before, except I have added some chicken. I've added fish occasionally, but I don't eat a lot of fish or seafood because of the mercury. I don't eat farm-grown because of the toxins. I eat organic because of the genetically modified foods and the growth hormones and all the pesticides and the toxins that are in our food supply, which was not a problem when I had lung cancer 38 years ago because we didn't have all the growth hormones and the genetically modified foods and all.
Wow. So you got a heck of a list here. Dr. Bernie Siegel, one of my favorites.
Is he?
And,
yeah. A great guy.
Francisco Canaris, James Forsyth. I mean, you got some very significant backing here with your additions, let's call them, and using alternative integrative interventions. So you're feeling good about this. You have a website as well, right?
Right.
BeatLungCancer.net.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you want to tell people that have been diagnosed with lung cancer? Most people get diagnosed because of smoking, right? Ness, is that wrong?
Well, about 89% is direct smoking, another 3% from indirect smoking, and then radon, asbestos, and diet. But, Paul, they say that it is smoking, but in public health we learned that there are multiple factors that lead up to a disease process.
Sure.
Because not everyone that smokes gets lung cancer, and then people that don't smoke get lung cancer. And so I believe that smoking is the primary cause, but there's the poor diet, the stress, the immune system gets run down, you're not eating properly, you're not sleeping properly. So I think there's a lot of host factors that also contribute besides the smoking, which I would consider an environmental factor.
Uh-huh. All right. So you feel your book can help somebody that actually has been diagnosed?
I think that
or is it too late?
The one problem, Paul, with diagnoses is that usually by the time you have symptoms with lung cancer, you're stage 3 or 4, and it's much more difficult to treat because it's metastasized to other sites. So that it's a hard one to treat. But the alternative doctors, you mentioned Dr. Forsyth, he's having 47 or 48% success with stage 4, 5-year survival. No, that's for all cancer. But with lung cancer, he's having, I think it's 39%, whereas the traditional is 2 to 5%. So he's having wonderful success with stage 4. Unfortunately, when you have success, you draw attention to yourself, and then the government and the medical profession get after you, and he said they couldn't take his license, but they tried to bankrupt him. So I think that there is success with alternative, but not very often with the traditional. And unfortunately, I heard today that my brother is dying. He was diagnosed with lung cancer last fall, and
Oh.
He had faith in his doctor, and so he went ahead and he did radiation. But he was 91 years old, and they did 5 days a week for 5 weeks radiation, and he couldn't eat. He lost 65 pounds. He had no energy. He just would sit and stare into space, and I didn't feel like I could interfere with his relationship with his doctor, and that the best thing I could do would be to ask if he would take Laetrile in addition to the radiation, which he did when he remembered it, but his memory had gotten so poor. And then I'd asked his daughter last week if she would try to build up his immune system with either colostrum or host defense, which is very good at building up the immune system, and also to get him a very good probiotic that would would build up the good bacteria in the gut again. But he went into the hospital Wednesday and they did a test, and the 5 weeks of radiation did nothing. The tumor is still there, and they said they could do 5 more rounds of radiation or chemotherapy, but his daughter said no, that he had suffered enough that they didn't want him to have any more of that, which I would support. So I don't think he's going to make it. And he's my one brother I have left. I had 3 brothers, and 2 of them have died, and he is the oldest, but he also, until last spring, he chopped wood 3 days a week. He grew all his own fruit and vegetables. They square danced. He walked. He was so active and wonderful health, had no health problems. And then all of a sudden, he's like going.
Well, let's pray for him as well, and let's hope that all the good things that have happened to you will go his way. Let me ask you the last question. Mm-hmm. What's good news for you? Good news for you.
Good news for me is that the word is getting out to people that there are alternatives to chemo, surgery, and radiation, and that people are beginning to say to the doctor, no, I want something else. Because back when I said no, my nurse colleagues all said, oh, just do what the doctor wants you to do. My mother said, oh, just do what the doctor wants you to do. No one went against what the doctor said, whether it was right or wrong. And I think the good news is that I think a lot of it is the internet, the naturopathic doctors, the complementary alternative center with the government that's doing research, the price of health care. I think so many things are forcing people to look for a better way to deal with cancer, and they're turning more and more to the alternative, and more people are living as a result of this.